Hi everyone. In our today's class we discuss about river lesson 2.2. Hydrological characteristics. All the landforms are found within drainage basin. Tributary rivers. When two tributaries join together they form a confluence. Here the area of land drainage by a river is called its drainage basin. The line that divides one river basin from another is called the watershed. As more tributaries join the main river channel, the discharge will increase. Processes which occur in a drainage basin: evaporation, when liquid changes to a gas; overland flow, the movement of water across a land's surface not in rivers; through flow, the horizontal movement of water through soil; groundwater flow, the slow horizontal movement of water through underground permeable rocks; interception, precipitation that is temporarily stored on the surface of plant leaves, etc. Infiltration, the downward movement of water into soil. Common river features: source, tributary, course, confluence, estuary, mouth. Source, the place where a river begins. Course, the route the river takes to the sea. Tributary, a small river that joins a large river. Confluence, the point where the tributary joins. Mouth, the point where the river enters the sea. Estuary, the part of the mouth that is tidal. Basin, the area of land drained by a river. Watershed, the high ground separating one river basin from another. The river's journey. Rivers usually begin in the mountains. They flow down hills onto the flat land and into the sea. As you can see in the picture, there are three parts which are named as steep gradient, gentle gradient, and the flat gradient. The stages of the river's journey. As the river flows from its source to the sea, it goes through three stages. These are the upper or youthful stage, the middle or mature stage, the lower or old age stage. Youthful stage. Valley has narrow floor and steep sides. In mature, valley has a wider floor and the sides are more gently sloping. Old stage. Valley has a wide flat floor and gentle sides. The youthful river. The youthful river has a small amount of water, but it travels very quickly down the steep mountain slopes. Most of its energy is used to erode, wear away the landscape. This erosion, wear away, occurs in four ways. Four processes of river erosion: hydraulic action. The force of the moving water wears away the bank and bed of the river. Abrasion. Small stones carried by the river wear away at the banks and bed of the river. Attrition. The small stones in the river are worn down and broken up as they hit off each other. Solution. Rocks and soil are dissolved by acids in the water. Of the youthful stage. All of the erosion by the river creates features or landforms on the landscape. Three features created into the youthful stage are V-shaped valleys, interlocking spurs, and waterfalls. V-shaped valleys. Here you can see there are four stages which shows vertical erosion. The second one is weathering, and the third one is mass movement, and the last one is V-shaped valley. A V-shaped valley with interlocking spurs. As you can see, the water is flowing in between the interlocking spurs, so the water can find its own way. No one can stop water or the flow of water. Waterfall with plunge pool. As you can see that the river is flowing down from the top and it is hitting the plunge pool or hitting the material which is downside. When it will hit the material or the land or the surface, it will undercut all the surface, and then it will form the plunge pool where the water will flow and it will move forward. River transportation. All rivers carry material in them. This material is carried by the river as it flows along. Rivers can carry large stones, small stones, sand, and other dissolved minerals. All of this material in the river is called the river's load. When the river moves its load, we call this river transportation. River transportation. Transportation occurs in four ways: rolling, bouncing, suspension, and solution. Here you can see in the picture, you can see the first one is rolling, then the second one is saltation, the third one is suspension, and the fourth one is solution. Let's discuss about rolling. Rolling. The large stones are rolled along the bed of the river. Bouncing. The smaller pebbles are bounced along the bed of the river. Suspension. Light material like sand and silt are carried along floating in the water. Solution. Dissolved materials are carried along by the river. Landforms of the mature stage. In the mature stage, the river begins to slow down, and so it begins to deposit some of its load. It creates the following features: wide river valley, meanders, and floodplains. Wider river valley. In the mature stage, the river moves from side to side and the valley becomes wide and flat. Weathering and mass movement continue to wear away at the side of the valley. See diagram. Here you can see in the diagram the wider valley in the mature stage of the river. That all the things are happening just because of erosion. And when the water will flow on this, the land will become flat or wider. So just because of this, the mass movement will occur. Landforms of the mature stage. Meanders. Meanders are bands or curves along the river. They are formed by erosion and deposition. Erosion occurs on one side of the river while deposition occurs on the opposite side. This continues, making the bands sharper. Look at the diagram. So as you can see in the diagram that these are the forms of meander. In first picture you can see that there is a little bit curve. In the second one you can see there is a little bit more curve, and third one you can see the shape has changed into like horseshoe. Development of meander. Just because of erosion, the deposition will occur. As you can see in the picture on the left side, the erosion is happening, means the water is hitting the boundary. After hitting the boundary, the material of this area from the erosion side will move toward the opposite one, and that will call as deposition. And the area which is near to the erosion side, that will allow water to flow in a slower speed, but the area which is near to the deposition area, that will allow the water to flow faster on outer bank. Meanders, as you can see in the picture. Floodplains. A floodplain is a flat area of land on either side of the river. After heavy rain, the river sometimes floods. The water spreads out over the land on either side of the river. When the river retreats, it leaves behind a thin layer of alluvium. After many floods, a thick layer of alluvium is created. This is very fertile soil. The old stage. In the old stage, the river is carrying lots of sand and silt. It is now flowing over flat land and so it is moving slowly. Therefore, it begins to drop off its load and this is called deposition. Like erosion in the youthful stage, deposition also creates many features or landforms. Landforms of the old stage. The following features or landforms are created by river deposition in the old stage: Oxbow Lake, Levis, and Delta. Oxbow Lake. An oxbow lake is a horseshoe shaped lake found beside a river. Oxbow lakes are formed when continued erosion and deposition create very pronounced meanders. Eventually, the river cuts through the neck of the meander. Deposition then occurs, which leaves the oxbow lake separated from the river, as you can see in the picture. Here is the formation of an oxbow lake. In first point, you can see the median neck, and the neck is getting narrow or narrower in the second one, and after that the river cuts through. Why? Because of erosion. And then in the fourth one, deposition will close the way and that will create an oxbow lake which is going to be separate from the river. Levees. Levees are raised banks of deposited material found along the bank of the river. When the river floods and is spread out over the floodplain, the heaviest material is deposited close to the river. Over time and after many periods of flooding, this deposited material form levees along the bank of the river. You can see in the picture, this levees develop in the old stage of a river. Here you can see on the downside, you can see a lot of stones. They are creating levees. Delta. A delta is a triangular shaped piece of land which is formed at the mouth of the river. As the river enters, the sea is dropped off all the remaining material it is carrying. This material builds up to form new land. The river is forced to break up into smaller channels called distributaries. Delta forming at the mouth of the river. Note the other features of an old river. As you can see, the other features like Oxbow Lake, Levis, and distributaries, and Delta, which is forming a triangle shape.